Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The barrel of the suppressed pistol pressed against my temple was cold, but the body straddling my waist was feverishly, beautifully hot. "Checkmate, brother," Seal whispered, his voice a silken thread wrapped around a razor blade. Just 3 seconds ago, I had been the heir to the Valerius crime syndicate, a dominant alpha sitting in the safety of his private office. Now, I was pinned to my own mahogany chair, helpless, with my innocent, doe-eyed stepbrother perched on my lap, holding the power of life and death in his manicured hand. His pheromones usually smelled like soft vanilla and helpless submission, a scent engineered to make alphas like me want to protect him. But tonight the air reeked of something darker, burnt sugar and metallic blood. He didn't look like the fragile Omega my father had married into the family to secure an alliance. He looked like an executioner who had finally grown tired of the charade. "You're trembling, Lysander," he mocked, tilting his head, his silver hair cascading over eyes that had shifted from innocent blue to a predatory, dilated black. "Is it fear? Or is your alpha biology finally realizing that you aren't the hunter in this house?" I should have killed him then. I should have snapped his wrist and reasserted control. But as I looked up at him, realizing the depth of his deception, all I could feel was a terrifying, addictive rush of desire. It started 6 months ago, under the guise of a merger. In the underworld of Neo-Viridia, marriage wasn't about love, it was about consolidation. My father, the Don of the Valerius family, had married the matriarch of the Rivera clan. It was a strategic move to monopolize the port trade. With the marriage came Seal Rivera. When I first met him at the reception, he was the picture of Omegan perfection. He wore white, kept his eyes cast downward, and flinched delicately whenever a champagne cork popped. He was small, slender, and radiated a scent so sweet it made my teeth ache. To an alpha like me, raised in violence and bloodshed, he looked like a porcelain doll that would shatter if I held it too tight. "Lysander," my father had grunted, clamping a heavy hand on my shoulder. "This is your new brother. Keep an eye on him. He's soft. The wolves in this city will eat him alive if he steps outside the compound." "I'm not a babysitter," I had scoffed, looking down at Seal. Seal had looked up then, just for a fleeting second. Through his long lashes, I thought I saw a glimmer of amusement, a spark of something sharp. But it vanished so quickly I assumed it was a trick of the light. "I hope we can get along." "Big brother," he murmured. I ignored him and walked away. I had an empire to run. I didn't have time for fragile things. For months, Seal played the part perfectly. He attended the charity galas, he poured tea for the council meetings, and he smiled demurely when the other alphas made crude comments about his appearance. He was the perfect trophy stepson. But there were anomalies. Small things that didn't add up. One evening, I found him in the library reading a treatise on structural engineering. Another night, I caught him coming in from the garden at 3 a.m., smelling of rain and gun oil. When I confronted him, he claimed he had been unable to sleep and had taken a walk, and the smell was just the gardener's fertilizer. I let it slide. That was my first mistake. The tension between us wasn't just suspicion, it was biological. We were living under the same roof, separated by a thin wall. His heat cycle was suppressed. He took heavy blockers, but I could still smell the phantom traces of it. It was maddening. As an alpha, my instincts screamed at me to claim the Omega in my territory, to bite the nape of his neck and mark him. But he was family now. Forbidden. To cope, I became cruel. I used my status to belittle him, hoping to drive him away or force him to submit completely so I could get bored of him. "You're useless, Seal," I told him one night during dinner after he dropped a wine glass. "You can't even hold a glass without shaking. How do you expect to survive in this family?" Seal knelt to pick up the shards. He didn't flinch as a jagged piece of glass sliced his thumb. He just watched the blood well up, his expression unreadable. "I'm learning, Lysander. I'm a fast learner." He brought his thumb to his mouth and sucked the blood away, his eyes locking onto mine. The air in the dining room suddenly grew heavy, charged with a static electricity that made the hair on my arms stand up. For a moment, the prey looked at me like I was the meal. Then he smiled, the mask slipping back into place. "I'll be more careful." The turning point came during the solstice gala. The Valerius estate was packed with rival dons, politicians, and corrupt police chiefs. It was the perfect hunting ground for politics, and as it turned out, for assassins. I was on the balcony, smoking a cigar, trying to escape the cloying perfume of the ballroom, when the security grid went dark. The lights flickered and died. A chaotic scream erupted from inside the hall. "Intruders!" someone shouted. "Protect the dawn." I drew my weapon, my alpha instincts roaring to the surface. I rushed back inside, expecting a firefight. What I found was a massacre in the dark. A rival faction, the Serpents, had breached the perimeter. They were heavy hitters, mercenaries clad in tactical gear. I took down 2 of them in the hallway, my shots precise, but there were too many. I was cornered near the grand staircase, my ammo depleted, 3 mercenaries advancing on me with combat knives. I braced myself for the impact, preparing to fight with my bare hands. Then, a shadow dropped from the chandelier above. It moved with a fluidity that was inhuman. A flash of silver, a blur of black silk. It was Seal. He wasn't wearing his tuxedo jacket anymore. His dress shirt was unbuttoned, revealing the sheen of sweat on his pale chest. In his hands, he held twin karambits, curved blades that looked like extensions of his fingers. He didn't fight like an Omega. He didn't fight like a brawler. He fought like a storm. He landed on the shoulders of the lead mercenary, his thighs clamping around the man's neck with crushing force. With a sickening crunch, he twisted, using the momentum to flip backward. Before the man's body hit the floor, Seal had already slashed the tendons of the second attacker. The third mercenary, terrified, raised his gun. Seal threw one of the karambits. It buried itself in the man's throat before his finger could squeeze the trigger. Silence fell over the hallway. I stood there, my empty gun hanging by my side, staring at the boy I thought I knew. Seal stood amidst the carnage, his chest heaving slightly. He was covered in blood, none of it his own. He reached down, retrieved his blade from the dead man's throat, and wiped it on his trousers. He looked at me, his face devoid of the shy innocence he had worn for months. "You're sloppy, brother. You check your corners, but you ignore the verticality of the room." "What are you?" I breathed, my voice hoarse. "I'm the insurance policy," he said coldly. "Now, are we going to stand here, or are we going to save your father? Though, frankly, I'm debating if he's worth the effort." That night changed everything. The fragile stepbrother was a myth. Seal Rivera was a weapon, honed and tempered. And God help me, I had never wanted him more. The dynamic in the house shifted violently. We stopped pretending. The verbal jabs turned into tactical debates. We sparred in the gym, and though I had the raw strength of an alpha, Seal had speed and a terrifying knowledge of anatomy. He knew exactly where to press to paralyze, where to strike to incapacitate. "Who trained you?" I asked one night, pinning him to the mat after a grueling session. My forearm was against his throat, our sweat mingling. "The people your father killed to build this house," Seal spat, struggling against my hold. I froze. "What?" "My biological parents," Seal hissed. "The Riveras adopted me, yes. But before them, I was an orphan of the conflict. Your father wiped out the Crimson Syndicate 15 years ago. My parents ran that syndicate. The realization hit me like a physical blow. You're here for revenge. Took you long enough," Seal smirked. "Why haven't you killed him yet?" I tightened my grip, growling low in my throat. "You've had 6 months. You could have poisoned his tea. You could have slit his throat while he slept." This was the question that haunted me. If Seal was this efficient, my father should have been dead weeks ago. Seal stopped struggling. His expression softened, not into submission, but into something calculating and weary. "Death is easy, Lysander. Any idiot with a knife can kill a man. But total erasure? That requires access. I don't want your father's life. I want his legacy to turn to ash. I want to dismantle the Valerius name so thoroughly that history forgets you ever existed. And to get the Empire, to transfer the assets, to unlock the encrypted archives. I needed to break his air first." He looked up at me, his eyes dark. "I needed you. You think you can break me?" I challenged, leaning closer, my lips inches from his. "I think," Seal whispered, lifting his hips slightly against mine, sending a jolt of electricity straight to my groin, "that you are already broken. You hate this life. You hate the brutality. You want someone to take the reins, even if they wrap them around your neck." He was right, and that terrified me. The climax of our twisted dance arrived a week later. My father, sensing the growing tension and perhaps suspecting Seal's true nature, decided to act. But he didn't target Seal. He targeted me. In his eyes, I had become softened by the Omega. I was hesitating in business deals, questioning his brutal methods. He arranged a meeting at the old docks. It was supposed to be a handover of territory, but it was an ambush. My own guards turned their guns on me. "It's nothing personal, son," my father said, standing under the yellow glow of a street lamp, flanked by his loyalists. "But a leader cannot have doubts. The Rivera boy has poisoned your mind. I'll deal with him after you're gone." I took a bullet to the shoulder before I could find cover behind a shipping crate. I was bleeding out, pinned down, outnumbered 10-1. I gripped my gun, accepting that this was the end. Then, the lights at the docks exploded. Darkness swallowed the pier. And in the darkness, the screams began. It wasn't a firefight, it was a slaughter. I heard bones breaking, the wet thud of bodies hitting concrete, and the terrified shouts of men facing something they couldn't see. A figure landed silently beside me behind a crate. "You look like hell," Seal whispered. He was wearing tactical gear, black on black, his face smeared with grease paint. "You came." I coughed, clutching my shoulder. "I thought you wanted to destroy the Valerius bloodline." "I do," Seal said, reloading his dual pistols with fluid grace. "But you're my prey, Lysander. No one else gets to kill you." He stood up and vaulted over the crate. I watched in awe as he moved through the remaining guards. It was a dance of death. He utilized his Omega stature to his advantage, moving low and fast, dodging gunfire that would have hit a larger target. He was a whirlwind of violence. When the last guard fell, only my father remained. The old man was shaking, holding a gold-plated revolver, aiming it at Seal. "You abomination," my father roared. "Stay back. I'm an alpha. You will submit." He released a wave of command pheromones, a chemical crush meant to force any Omega to their knees. Seal didn't even pause. He walked right through the invisible wall of dominance, immune, unaffected. He kicked the gun out of my father's hand and kicked him in the chest, sending the Don of the Valerius family sprawling onto the dirty concrete. I staggered out from behind the crate, leaning against it for support. Seal stood over my father, a gun pointed at the old man's head. But he didn't pull the trigger. He looked at me. "Here is your choice, Lysander," Seal said, his voice ringing clear in the silence of the docks. "You can save him. You can shoot me in the back right now, save your patriarch, and take your place as the obedient heir. Or, I asked, limping forward. Or we end it. We burn the legacy. We take the empire for ourselves, not as Valerius and Rivera, but as us, partners in the ashes." My father looked at me, eyes wide with desperation. "Lysander, shoot him. He's a monster. He's an Omega." I looked at the man who had raised me with a fist and a belt. Then I looked at Seal. Dangerous, lethal, beautiful Seal. The Omega who had hunted me, lied to me, and just saved my life. The choice wasn't even a choice. I raised my gun. My father smiled, thinking I was aiming at Seal. I shifted my aim and put a bullet into the concrete inches from my father's head. He flinched, sobbing. "I'm done taking orders," I said. Seal smiled. It was the first genuine smile I had ever seen on his face. It was terrifying. "Good boy," Seal purred. He turned back to my father. "The Valerius Empire is under new management." We returned to the present moment. The office. The gun at my head. This isn't a betrayal. This is foreplay. We took the city. It took 3 nights of purging the old loyalists, but we did it. Seal's tactical brilliance, combined with my brute force and knowledge of the inner workings, created a new regime. But the power dynamic between us, that was still being negotiated. "Well," Seal asks, pressing the gun harder against my temple. "Answer the question, Alpha. Who owns you?" I look into his eyes, the black abyss of his dilated pupils. I can smell his arousal now, unmasked by suppressants. It's intoxicating. It's the scent of danger. I reach up, slowly, deliberate in my movements so he doesn't shoot, and wrap my hand around the barrel of the gun. I pull it away from my head and press it directly over my heart. "You do." I growl, my voice rough with need. Seal's breath hitches. He didn't expect total surrender. He expected a fight. He expected me to try to dominate him back. "Careful," he whispers, his composure slipping just a fraction. I might pull the trigger. Do it, I challenge him. If you want to rule this city alone, do it. But we both know you don't want to be alone, Seal. You've been alone your whole life. You don't want a servant. You want an equal. You want a monster who can run alongside you. I grip his waist, my fingers digging into his hips. You want an alpha who isn't afraid of your teeth. Seal stares at me, searching for a lie. He finds none. The gun wavers in his hand. He drops it onto the desk with a heavy thud. You're arrogant, he breathes, leaning down, his lips brushing against mine. I'm yours, I correct him. He kisses me then, and it's not soft. It's a collision. It's a bite. It tastes like copper and victory. I pull him closer, reclaiming my space, not as a master claiming a servant, but as a king claiming his queen, a queen who happens to be holding a dagger behind his back. I spin the chair, reversing our positions so he is pinned beneath me against the desk, scattering papers and blueprints. He wraps his legs around my waist, his nails digging into my shoulders, drawing blood. You're dangerous, Seal. I murmur against his neck, inhaling the spicy, lethal scent of him. And you love it, he gasps, arching into my touch. He's right. I do. The city outside is burning. The sirens are wailing in the distance, singing the song of our rise to power. My stepbrother, the dangerous Omega, had come to destroy me. Instead, he remade me. We aren't a fairy tale. We are a cautionary tale. We are the fire that burns the forest down to let new things grow. And as I look down at him, flushed and fierce beneath me, I know one thing for certain. The world thinks I tamed the dangerous Omega. They are wrong. He let me catch him. And that is how the viper tamed the wolf. If you enjoyed seeing Lysander surrender to his dangerous half, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you forgive a lover who held a gun to your head if it meant ruling the world together? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then, prompt image. Prompt. Masterpiece, best quality, high-res, 1.2. Korean manhwa style, semi-realistic, digital art, 2 men, BL, Yaoi, man 1. Alpha, broad shoulders, dark hair, sharp jawline, wearing unbuttoned dress shirt, sitting in leather office chair, looking up with intense desire and submission. Man 2. Omega, slender but toned, silver hair, glowing blue eyes, sitting on man 1's lap, holding a suppressed pistol against man 1's chest, smirk on face, wearing black silk shirt. Background is dimly lit. Office, moonlight streaming through blinds, scattered papers, mahogany desk, glass of whiskey, noir atmosphere, cinematic lighting, tension, dominance switch, intricate details.